Good evening. Welcome to another edition of the 411 Talk Zone radio show right here on YouTube. My name is Leon Jones. During this video, I'm going to give you an added bonus. Now, what happened yesterday, I recorded a video giving a reaction to the brother Ricky Williams, who was crying on a panel. I believe it was 6 men and 4 women. So I was going to take that video down. And the reason why I was going to take that video down is a number of individuals could hear my voice, but they couldn't hear the second video. In other words, the video that I'm reacting to didn't have any audio. And that was my fault because I forgot to share the sound. Now, what I'm going to do, as promised, I'm going to re-record that video. Why is this brother crying on the panel? And I'm just going to call it part 2, Is he a simp? So what you can do, you can watch the re-recorded version, that's today's version, or utilize yesterday's version. So again, why is this brother crying? Is he a simp? Part 2. And it will probably be part 2 because I will not exactly duplicate what I said yesterday. But before I get down to business, there's something I need to show you. And this is what I need to show you. 17 USC 107. Section 107, limits on executive rights fair use. Warning: federal law allows citizens to reproduce, redistribute, or exhibit portions of copyrighted motion pictures, videotapes, or video discs under certain circumstances without authorization of the copyright holder. This is called and is allowed, it's known as fair use. Again, this is called fair use. And what fair use explains is when you use any copyrighted content, motion pictures, videotapes, you can use the content. Now, of course, my channel is not monetized, but I can use the content for news reporting, teaching, making parodies, and of course, criticism. Why? Because it doesn't infringe under 17 USC 107. USC 107, United States Code 107. Now, we got that out of the way. I want to share my screen again. And guess what? It's time to get down to business. But this time, I'm going to add a little sound to it. Fair use. Now again, you want to see the brother up in the top right-hand corner. His name is Ricky Williams. And shout out to SKC and Brother Free Zone. Yes, I'm using your content once again. Please don't flag me, bros. Please don't flag me. I need to re-record this video for my audience who requested it. So I want to give them some good content. So without further ado, let's go.
Solution.
Shout out to Daryl, man. Shout out to you, bro.
Already. Look at the brother. He's grabbing his own neck. And what he's doing, he's getting ready to cry. Sadness is being reported. Now, again, I have nothing against the brother because sometimes He could be talking with some compassion. However, what I believe he's trying to do is rescue a community that can't be rescued. If you don't believe me, I'm going to show you. Fair use.
Look, I'm gonna tell this story. I've been with my wife 25 years.
That's great. He's going to tell a story. He's been with his wife 25 years. Now, in today's society, that is very admirable because most men and women can't stay together for 7, 8 months, let alone 25 years. However, he's got a story to tell, and I want to hear it. And you all want to hear it. So I'm going to let you hear it. Fair use.
I raised my children. I raised other people's kids.
Uh-oh, SpaghettiOs, he raised his children and other people's children. So let's sit back and comprehend what he just said. He raised his children, which he is supposed to do. So you get no kudos for that. But as I lean back and listen to something else he said, he's talking about he raised other people's children. Now, before I get elated about it, let me dig a little deeper. Depending on how old this brother is, did he raise somebody else's children? Which means is he a stepdaddy or was he a stepdaddy? Or did he take on his grandchildren? One will never know. So I'm going to make an ass out of you and me by assuming he was a stepdaddy. Why? Because most of us men, and this is generally speaking, many of us, we don't want to deal with our own children sometimes, especially when they're grown and gone. So what makes you think we want to take on our grandchildren? But looking at this brother, he's got a story to tell. And I want you to hear it. Fair use. And we got sound tonight. Let's go.
I sacrificed.
Uh-oh, I got to throw that again in there one more time. Sacrifice. Okay, let's talk about sacrifice. I sacrificed too. I had children I had to take care of, whether I was there or paying child support. Something came from me to help them survive. Also, me, along with other veterans and police officers, and of course, firemen, they sacrificed themselves as well. That's why we got Memorial Day. And these are the ones who died so we can have freedom. So he's telling us about sacrifice. Well, you are a parent. That's the decision you made when you laid down and made babies. So I'm not going to give him a benefit of doubt for making sacrifice. Why? Because that is what you're supposed to do. Check it out. Let's go.
And I hear what y'all saying. I didn't have a dad.
Getting back to it, you didn't have a dad. So, because you didn't have a dad, it looks like you're trying to be the dad that you never had. Well, living through the fact that you can't have a dad is not going to make you a good dad. And just because you have a dad, it doesn't mean you go out and make a decision to be a dad because you didn't have a dad. Because in the long run, you could be doing something wrong. And see, you're on the panel giving us this documentary about what you did, but I don't know what's going on behind closed doors. You could have an issue of post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD. A number of us do suffer that. but you may never know it. But I know if you suffer post-traumatic stress disorder, because there's always something traumatic that people discuss. And what they do, they hide behind that to make them seem like they have arisen. They're these strong beings. However, that means nothing when you're doing exactly what you're supposed to do. Parents make sacrifices, period. No ifs, ands, or buts. Let's continue. Fair use. Notice he's got his head down. He's thinking about what to say. And he's trying to hold back his feelings right now because he's getting choked up. Now, this guy right at the bottom, Beatbox Ronan, watch his reaction. And then you watch the lady at the top. She's shaking her head, but she doesn't look like she's showing any emotion at all. She's just going right along with it. Because in the end, you think these ladies are going to respect that man? Are they going to care about what that man is saying? Absolutely not, because it really isn't affecting him. They may be showing him some fake respect, but in the long run, they don't really care about this brother. Now, I will give this brother his kudos. Brother SKC had him on the panel, and Brother SKC did a marvelous job interviewing this gentleman. Brother SKC does a good job at journalism as well as utilizing his computer for intros and music. But with all that being said, I still want to find out why this brother was crying on a panel. Is he a simp? Let's go.
I had to figure it out.
Of course, you had to figure it out. There's no recipe to being a parent. In fact, there's no recipe to see how your life is going to turn out. But what you can do to keep your life from going down the wrong road is to look at what you did behind you and look at where you want to go. And in order to do that, you got to look at yourself currently. Are you ready to go ahead? Or do you need more evaluation on yourself? See, in order to go ahead from where you left, but you're here currently, you have to look at the situation. You have to look at the now, because you've already learned from the then, but in order to get ahead, you want to be prepared. And see, a lot of us become parents when we're not ready to become parents. Now, you don't have to figure anything out if you plan correctly. See, he said he had to figure it out because in his mind, he had no dad. Now, it's funny to say that because I hear a number of Black women out here saying you don't need dads. So, as a male, can't you get advice from other males who were dads or from other males who were coaches, from other males who were pastors? Oh, let's skip the pastor. The pastor doesn't really care about the Black male. He cares about the Black female. Why? Because that's where she is giving him money so she can listen to him preach to her to make her feel good. See how that works? But in the end, let's find out why this brother has to figure it out. There he is. Here he goes, got the sniffles. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, blast off. Here come the tears. Here come the tears. Look at everybody on the panel shaking like he's getting ready to deliver a State of the Union speech, but it's something that we've already heard before. If you don't believe me, let's see how he delivers his speech while he's crying a river.
Take your time, G. Take your time.
Straight up.
Let me stop right there. Beatbox Ronan, straight up. He looks like, look at his eyes right there. Looks like he's about to turn on the water himself because he's getting choked up. He may not have a father. Look at everybody on the panel. See, they're sitting there like they're at the reflective pool in Washington, D.C. back in 1963 when Martin Luther King delivered his famous I Have a Dream speech. But he is going to deliver a speech that we all know, but many of us don't follow. That's why he's crying, because he wants to fix the dysfunction, but he can't. And the reason why he can't is because no one is listening. He's going to tell you with his tears, fair use.
You sound like a great father.
Yeah.
Sound like a great father. He's doing what he's supposed to do, Sarah Gerard. I believe her name is Syra Gerard. You see, here's the problem, and I've been on my fair share of panels, but you're never going to see Leon Jones cry on a panel. Now, do I cry if I lost a loved one? Probably not, but I would show my condolences in a different way. Would I be saddened? Absolutely. However, this brother is crying in front of a bunch of people that he doesn't know. And I don't know if these individuals care about him. Now, is he crying for the theatrics? I don't know. But I know he's doing something that I would never do. He's singing Justin Timberlake right now, Cry Me a River. You don't believe me? I'm going to show you. Let's go.
Yeah.
He's already started. The reason why he's starting, he's sniffing. He doesn't know what to say right now. He's getting choked up. He hasn't written anything out, but he's getting ready to give an emotional speech. And see, I say that because this is what a number of Black people live in. This is why we don't have anything. Many of us live in a land of nuts and berries. Everything is magical. Everything is about Jesus. Yes, I believe in God. I believe in the spirit. But regardless of what's going on, if you don't have structure, if you don't have proper education, and if you don't have economics, and if you don't have families together, and I'm talking about intact families, and if you don't have proper security where you're protecting each other in the community, and again, money turning over, the nuts and berries is not going to help. It'll make you feel good, but in the end, you're still going to be where you are, dysfunctional. Fair use. Let's go.
Y'all got to be willing to love each other, man.
Your brother down here, his eyes look like they're getting red. Beatbox Ronan. You gotta love each other. You gotta love yourself. In fact, do these individuals on the panel really know about loving each other? I don't know if they do or not, but he's talking about y'all gotta love each other. What does he mean by y'all? You gotta love yourself. You see, if you're gonna change something, You're not going to change this modern Black community. You're not. But what you can do is change yourself. And shout out to Brother Nate on this. Sometimes you have to separate. You want change? Get like-minded people. See if you can build an economy. But don't build that economy just for Black people. Let everybody come in and buy your product and let that money turn over so you can really grow. Then you can have your God. You can have your material items. You can have your little stock market. But most of all, you can have your own media and your own education, which is going to keep you from being indoctrinated by the leftist liberal system out here, known as the public food system. Let's go. Let's continue.
Y'all don't love each other, bro. Y'all don't.
Said, y'all don't love each other. What does that mean? Now, I will say this as I sit back, even though he's crying, he has a point. Some of us love each other, but most of us don't even know what love is. Because like Rolls Royce said back in 1978, it's just a vacancy. Love don't live here anymore. Well, love never lived in the Black community because there was no real structure. And I'm talking about, when I say love, I shouldn't say never. I should say love hasn't lived in the Black community since the Lyndon B. Johnson days. Why? Because some of the men left, and then the government, they gave incentives to women to be without men so welfare could become the father. Now, the men that left, they weren't going to stay there anyway. The men that wanted to stay, they may have come back later on at night, but I'm sure that they didn't want to leave their families. And by the way, I don't care about the Moynihan report. That's another New York liberal that thinks he knows about Black people. He never knew about Black people. He just put something out so many of us who don't read as African Americans would go along with it. I never went along with it. But what I will say is this brother here crying on this panel, he's already teaching me something. He's teaching me never to cry on the panel and never get emotional. Now, I'm not saying a man's not supposed to cry, but a man is not supposed to cry in front of people he doesn't know. Because I bet you these individuals, I'm going to talk about them later on, especially when they need a trending topic. This is how YouTube works. But let's go. Let's see some more of this brother crying the river.
Y'all love money. Y'all love trips.
Well, brother, you didn't know that? Other Black women, that's what they do. They spend their money on trips. They spend their money on pocketbooks, Birkin bags. They spend their money on clothes. They spend their money on hair. They spend their money on everything but the kitchen sink, but the electric bill. Why? Because they're superficial. And brothers do the same thing, buying all kinds of Jordans, buying chrome for a car that doesn't work. Shout out to Teapot. I was on this show last night. We talked about this through the Old Negroes segment, but it is true. Black people have a lot of money. We spend trillions of dollars. but we'll never get that trillions of dollars back because we're sending it out. And then you have people who come in who don't look like us and will take that money to Don Juan Chang and Muhammad Quase on the 99-cent stores, the greasy Chinese food, and of course, the grocery store, the corner store that has expired food. Oh, we'll still buy that. And the only other black person that money's going to go to in the black community is going to go to the pastor, the black pastor. Now, the black pastor, the Arabian, and the Chinese man are going to have one thing in common. They're going to take the money and run. They will come up there during the day and they're out by night. Why? Because they grabbed the bag. And they're going to continue to enrich themselves by making the people who don't love themselves poorer and poorer. You don't believe me? Let's see what this brother has in store for us. Fair use. Let's go.
Y'all sit there and give y'all life away to somebody who won't give you their last name.
Now, what he's going on with that part of the story, they're lying down with a brother, not going to wipe him up. They're giving him a child. The brother that won't give them the last name. In fact, will his sisters give him their last name? A correction. Will the sister take the last name? Or will they hyphen their last names up? He didn't say that, but that's exactly what they're going to do. They'll take the last name, but they'll hyphen the last name up by including their last name first, or they'll just go down and lie down with the brother who's not going to do anything with him but smash him and dash him. Now, again, that's not every one of the ABWs, but that's a number of them, because if you look on a panel, you actually got 5 women up there. And I don't know where this video actually came from. It looks like it could be an Anton Daniels video. I don't know. But the brother's still crying on the panel. And that's what we need to find out. And he's going to give us some more of a soliloquy. And I'm about to listen. Let's continue.
I raise other people's kids. I raise my kids.
All right. Now, this is the second time he said that. He's raised his kids and other people's kids. Let's separate the two right now. First of all, why did you raise somebody else's kids? And I'm going to take the position that he was a stepdaddy. And in this space, we say no to being a stepdaddy. It is a job that you don't have any power. It is a thoughtless job. And even raising your own kids can be a thoughtless job. At least you have a little power over your own kids. But when you got somebody else's kids, you got to deal with that person's family. You got to deal with the other father or 2 or 3, because he talks about he had to raise somebody else's kids. I don't know how many kids this person he's talking about had, but my light bulb and my spidey senses are tingling. He was a stepdaddy, and he had a lot of simp in him. And he thought that some of the women that he's talking about in the community are queens. You got to see through all of the soliloquy, because this brother is emotional and he's a simp. Now, I'll give him credit for being married 25 years. That's the only thing I'm going to give him credit for. I'm not going to give him credit for taking care of his kids. That's what he's supposed to do. I'm never going to give him a pass for taking care of somebody else's kids. He decided to do that from his own mind. He didn't look into the future. Person who had the kids, he was probably looking in the now, lusting. He wanted her so bad, he was willing to do something for this woman's kids. And I have to ask, what happened to that relationship? Now, I will back it up a little bit. 25 years. Could these kids be his wife's kids? He's been married 25 years. Now he's saying that we don't love each other. Does his wife really love him? See, these are questions we should be asking. Did his wife not want any more kids of his? If the story plays out right because she already had kids, we will never know. But he is putting some information out that we've already talked about. But he's doing more crying about it because he's probably suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder. Something happened. And nobody's gotten to the bottom of it. Because when individuals explain themselves, sometimes they purposely omit what the real truth is so they won't be exposed. Well, let's see what this brother in the crime mode has to continue to say. Fair use.
Some of them great, some of them not. But I was fucking there. I was there.
Okay, he's talking about he was there. You're supposed to be there, especially if they're your kids. And what you're saying is some of your kids were great and some of them weren't. The question is why? And if you ask me, you're a good dad. Did you teach your kids about influences? Where are you getting your influence from? Did your kids respect you? I don't know that either. Because he's talking about the community, but he's part of the community. But you can't talk about everyone else unless you fix what's going on in your life. And he could be using everybody else to escape what's going on in his life. A number of us do. That's called denial. That's called shame and blame. That's the real shame and blame. Because after shame and blame, you're going to have some explanation on why you're doing it. But you're not going to tell the truth deep down inside. It's because your life was messed up based off of your decision making. That's why you had to figure it out. Because number one, you didn't have any resources. Number two, you weren't thinking with the right head, you were thinking with the wrong head. Number three, you didn't have a plan. And number four, you let yourself out in the open. So now you're in survival mode. And when people get in survival mode, they become desperate and their thinking becomes very impulsive. Why? Because the needs become greater and greater. And then the stress, that's going to bear down on you harder and harder. And I've always said this about stress. It's the number one killer. Worse than Dracula. Let's go. Let's see what this brother has to say. Why he's crying on the panel.
And when this ain't no diss to nobody, but when I tell my It's no different when I'm on here and I'm telling y'all, man, y'all got to get over that bullshit, man. The same way I got to sit and look at kids that I raised, right? That I
Now, what BS is this guy talking about? Look at Kayla.com. She looks like she's about to cry. Look at Beatbox Ronan. Eyes shut. He's trying to hold it in. And everybody else is listening to the guy. Now look at this person. She looks like she's getting angry. I'm just giving a general opinion here. She looks like she's getting angry. She doesn't care. But deep down inside, I don't believe any of these individuals feel good about themselves. Because is he exposing him? I know he's exposing himself. He's talking about the kids. Well, you made him. And at the end of the day, the speech sounds very, very emotional. But is it going to fix anything? I doubt it. Why? Because most of us are comfortable being victims because we want the sympathy. You see, when we have to work for something, it's difficult. Not too many people are going to give us a hand up. And with today's selfish culture, you're not even going to get a hand out. And this is why you have to figure everything out. Because nobody's going to give you the answer because they're not concerned about you. They're concerned about them. Fair use. Let's continue.
didn't make. Right? But then we get in these spaces and everybody, I'm a simp, I'm a sucker.
Well, let me tell you something, Brother Williams. People are coming up with that analysis of you because of your decision making. And when you become a simp, you become easy to run over. People take advantage of you. You didn't stand your ground. And you claim you have a wife. Your wife should have gotten you off the panel. And told you to come back up tomorrow. Or your wife should have just said, hey, look, we got to work on ourselves. We got issues with our relationship. But she wasn't going to do that because she didn't care. You see, if I'm in a predicament where I'm making a fool of myself, Tommy Jean is going to make sure, and shout out to her, she's going to make sure that I don't look like a fool. So if your partners care about you, they're going to make sure you're not exposed. They have your back. But his wife may not have his back because he's still on this panel preaching and crying about a community he can't fix. The best thing to do is fix yourself, move away. Or do you live in a community? Because a number of blacks cry racism. Look at all these millionaire singers like John Legend. You look at basketball players. They got all the money. You even look at some of the individuals from the from the alphabet community, like the ones who started up Black Lives Matter. They wanted to make their money, Black Lives Matter, off of dead black men, and they did, but they don't live in a black community. You look at individuals like Robin Roberts, Beetlejuice, who's the mayor of Chicago, Wanda Sykes. As much as some of the sisters talk about Becky, now these are ones who are lesbians, and what do they have as a mate? a white woman who's a lesbian. So there's the hypocrisy right there. And I know why, because they probably heard that lesbian couple in Detroit. It's a black couple where the black girlfriend left one black girlfriend, and the black girlfriend that was left shot the one that left her, I believe it was 7 times in the vagina in Detroit. There was a video on. Shout out to little big Nate. I sent him that video. And that woman who was shot in the vagina in Detroit from her girlfriend lived to tell about it. And you know, black lesbians have one of the highest domestic violence rates because you have 2 individuals who want to be in control. Never works out. That's the dysfunction right there. 2 angry, delusional, selfish people. And in the community, I know individuals don't like us talking about our own people. I know you have some individuals that say we don't care about what Caucasian people do, which I don't, because I don't feel inferior. I don't want to use the word feel. I'm not inferior. I mean, whatever happens, happens. I have an opportunity, and I'm going to make the best of my opportunity. And there's only one person that I have to impress. It's me. But let's continue.
So the very thing we need to be fucking together, y'all don't even like, y'all don't even listen to me, bro.
Look at this one up here. I guess her name is kladio.com. She looks like she's about to cry. Of course, you look at Beatbox Ronan. He hadn't shed a tear on the outside, but internally, he's crying. You look how quiet the panel is. These guys know that there's dysfunction. These guys know that this brother got up on the panel and said a hell of a lot of nothing. Because they already know you're not going to save dysfunction. Some people want to be dysfunction, and this brother's crying over women. Well, if you got a woman, you shouldn't be crying over women. You shouldn't be worrying about them taking a brother's last name. Because even if they take a brother's last name, it's going to be hyphenated. For the most part, they don't even want that hyphenated last name. They just want the child, forget the man. And then a number of them are filled with misandry and feminism and selfishness and delusion. You don't believe me? The source is Kendra G. You look at all those women on that show, and they're over 30, and they're still acting like they're 20. A number of them have Peter Pan syndrome or Wendy syndrome. Many of them are very selfish. Many of them are schizo. And when I'm talking about schizo, you can lay the facts out there and it's still never going to be right. And I love doing my psychology because I'm pointing some of these behaviors out. Many of them need therapy, and that goes for the guys as well. Fair use. Let's watch Brother Williams, and it's not the Ricky Williams who played for the Miami Dolphins and Baltimore Ravens who wore number 34 at running back. It's this Ricky Williams. He's going to give us a beautiful sermon on the panel, crying the river. Let's go.
And I did what everybody expected me to do. Did I go about it the right way? No, I didn't, but I stuck through it. And it's not appreciated. It's not. No matter what y'all say, it's not.
First of all, in the real world, you can go to work and do everything you're supposed to do, and it's never going to be appreciated. Let's look at some of the comments. Charles Merchant, weak ass chump. Father Nancy, what happened to this brother? Let's check something else out. I mean, the panels. I mean, look at this. Somebody's talking about sacrificed himself for a hoe. These are individuals. This is the chat right now. I'm looking for Brother Trey up there, Brother Free Zone. Going up here. Hey, truism. Shout out to this brother. Words of the storm crow. Effects of discarded side bitch syndrome. I mean, these comments are telling you everything. And up here, you got Brother Trey up here, and I always look for Brother Trey. And one word that Brother Trey uses, he uses the word strag. And I will caution you, brothers, don't fight over them. Look at truth only. Wedlock or locked from being wed. You see, you have to examine what some of the individuals say. Now, from 1865 to 1960, from Brother Gray Fox, Americans had a higher rate. And we're talking about a higher marriage rate. That was fact. But they got caught up by feminism. And when they got caught up by feminism, the ABW decided to go along with feminism. Shout out to Freeman's Journal. The number one thing the modern woman needs to prepare for is marriage. And he says, STFU. I'm not going to repeat what that stands for. But he's right. Something I talked about. Ego. And I'm going to take it one step further, Freeman's Journal. Pride. Look at Paul Game up here. Shout out to him. What makes him special? F the single baby mamas. Bandit 114. We all have to figure it out, man. Dad or no dad. The pain is his face, man. That's hard to watch. Yeah, it is hard to watch. And it's also hard to hear. Free zone. These crying Negroes, man. Fast attack, tough 688. All of my life I had to fight. Well, a lot of us had to fight. Charles Merchant, male feminist idiot. I mean, these guys are gonna, they're coming down hard on the brother. Bingo, I found Brother Trey. I ain't crying in front of no strag. Spiritual Hulk. Call him spiritual logic. He's right. These people are gone. Totally gone. Strags don't care. That's true. Found the answers right here on that panel. And these are the guys that were on that panel while SKC and Brother Free Zone were playing this video. Fair use. Let's keep going.
It's frowned upon. Y'all spit on it. Y'all minimize it. Y'all make it trivial. And all I'm trying to tell is I fucking love y'all, man.
Look at Hood Conservative in here. Who crying? This dude up there is crying. He's telling everybody that he loves them. Do you love yourself? That's the answer. Do you love yourself? A truism. Old Force MDS tears singing ass Negro. This is what makes him look like a simp. And this is why he's getting clowned. Fair use.
If ain't nobody told you, I fucking fuck with y'all. But we looked at it like, oh, you the throwaway dude. This is what y'all tell me. This is what y'all tell me.
Shout out to Bandit 11114. You wonder why men gave up on women. This is why. The disrespect is real. The Brotherhood Conservative said this old Negro's tears are saltier. I mean, they're going ham in the chat. And Charles Merchant is going hard. He says, STFU, step sucker. He says, shut the hell up, step sucker. This is what happens when you play with fire, you get burned. Let's continue.
Why y'all think we keep getting the shit we get, bro? Why y'all think? The ones y'all need, y'all don't want. The ones y'all need, y'all don't want them. Y'all want the glitz, the glam. Y'all want all the pretty shit. But soon as something happen that you don't like with me, fuck me. Fuck it. All them, one fuck up, take away all them data boys.
Well, see, the thing about it is, he made his bed, he's got to sleep in it. He didn't use his mind, he followed his heart. And I've always said, when you utilize emotion, emotion clouds critical thinking. I mean, you look at everybody on this panel. They look dejected. Guarantee you a number of them. There may be some baby mamas, or there may be some baby fathers on this panel. But one thing is common. The dysfunction is real. Again, when you put your foot in some hot burning water, you're going to get burned. It's going to hurt. It's supposed to hurt. But if you go back and do it again, you didn't learn your lesson the first time. Let's see what more this brother has to say.
44,000 a year. 44,000 a year. My wife got a house. She got a car. She got a place she can call her own. She got a place where her grandbabies can come play with her. Yeah.
Well, you're quoting the money. You're quoting the car. You're quoting the house where the grandbabies can come and play. That's great. You're an adult. You're supposed to have your own. Why should I feel any sentiment for you? I don't. I feel like I'm like some of these guys in the chat. Think these women on the panel are gonna feel sorry for you? Hell no. They're probably laughing at you behind the fake sobbing. Again, look at Beatbox Ronan, this brother. His eyes look like they're getting red. He's already teared up. He just didn't see it. I recognize people's eyes. I recognize his eyes. He looks like he's about to drop some tears. Holding back, but he's crying inside. So he may be one of those dysfunctional Negroes that I'm always talking about. Let's see what Brother Williams has more to say. Because this brother is crying on a panel with people he doesn't even know. He looks like a simp. I'm going to continue. And I'm going to give a little bit more breakdown.
Yeah, no big baller shot calling. Oh, get to the bag. Bag chases. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Guy's got some emotional outbursts, a woman. In fact, he doesn't know how to control his emotions. This is what we used to call emotional immaturity. He doesn't know how to deal with the facts. He doesn't know how to deal with reality. And what's going to happen with this brother, keeps this up, he could land in depression. You see, when I look at videos, I watch the behavior issues. I watch the body language, the nonverbal communication. Now, I'm not always right, but one thing I can tell you is this brother's getting stressed over something that doesn't concern him. He's wasting time. You're not going to get to a bunch of buffoons who don't want to listen to you. Why? Because they, in their mind, have it all figured out in their mind until something hits them. But see, the women can go get sympathy from other misandrous women who hate men in so many spaces. The men, on the other hand, they're not going to get any sympathy because they're supposed to be men. Not saying we're not supposed to have emotions. There's a time and a place to show your emotions. And being on a panel with individuals you don't know is not the time. Let's continue.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's powerful shit, man.
Well,
He a simp.
You hear that? He is simp. He is simp. Well, of course, Sunkiss is going to agree with what he said because she lives in that type of world herself. And I've seen her on a number of panels. Now, I'm not knocking what she says, but I'm going to tell you this. When you are a man and you have emotional outbursts, you go on a panel, you start coming off the top of the dome with the love, the nuts and berries, the spiritualness, the feeling. That's a female trait. You're emasculated. You're not a problem solver. So a person like me is never going to trust you because you're going to crack when danger hits instead of fighting. Now, real sacrifice is fight for what you believe in. You don't talk about it. And the problem with a number of us, some of us still believe that we're back in the 1960s marching down there in Selma, Alabama. We shall overcome. Those days have come and gone, and guess what? They're worse. Now, again, it's not all people who look like me. But you have to look at everybody on that panel. Now, the video was about 3 hours, so I just took a small portion to break it down so I could see this one guy crying. And I just want to send this out to a number of you brothers. When you get on panels, don't give any emotional outbursts. People are going to think you're crazy. And people like me who do panels, you won't be allowed on my panel. because you're already telling me that when you get into an issue that you don't agree with, you're going to get very defensive and you're going to attack me personally. And then what's going to happen? You're going to call me a coon or some name that has nothing related to what we're talking about. Female trait. That's the shaming. You're going to insult me. And because this guy had no father, the traits that I saw were from mommy. Mommy raised this boy, and he could be in his 40s and 50s. But something had happened. He could have been molested. I don't know, but he could have been. And yes, there are women child molesters out there as well. And I'm going to get more into predatory women because that's part of my psychology videos that I do, and it's going to sting. But in order to better yourself, you have to understand the truth about yourself, not blame anybody. If you did something or something has been done to you, you have to admit it, no matter how much it's going to hurt the other person and hurt you. Strength is not how much mouth you have. It's being able to endure. And it's also being able to admit your faults, embrace your faults. Nobody is perfect. And if people laugh at you because you're admitting something, then you don't have the problem. They have the problem. And see, the problem here when it comes to Black people in America, I am going to say something. Now, he was very emotional, that brother, but I already knew this a long time ago. Black people have always had, since I've been living 57 years on earth, they've always had the crabs in a barrel mindset. And some of us try to make excuses for them. Again, some of us try to make excuses for them. And some of us, when we do better, we still want to stay back to try to rescue the others that haven't gotten there. But do they want to get there? No, but I tell you what will happen. They want to take what you have. This is why you can't trust all of them. You see, what white folk do is they separate. You're not going to find white folk in a trailer hanging up there with white folk in the Hamptons. It's not going to happen. But see, with Black folk, what we try to do is include everybody. This is why it doesn't work. It's weak. Now, being a good thinker, we let pride get in our way. We let ego get in our way. We let selfishness get in our way. We're very emotional, too spiritual. Some of us get violent with each other. Talking about love, you can't love what you hate. And for the most part, a number of us dislike each other. We dislike each other because in the past 60 years, we were raised, many of us. Now, I had a mom and dad. My mom and dad are still living. But a number of us who didn't have a mom and dad, or they had a mom and dad that were dysfunctional, added to the dysfunction. And the dysfunction comes from the environment you were brought up in. Now, again, I'm going to say this about environment. You could live in the suburbs and still be dysfunctional. Yes, because you're in there where you're spoiled. Parents give you everything, you don't appreciate it. And if you live in the poverty section of the trailer park or the hood, it's also going to be dysfunction because you become desperate. You get into survival mode and you'll take an innocent person's life so you'll survive. You're not thinking. But when it comes to being on these panels, I agree with Sunkiss. This guy's a simp. He is a simp. He got played. And from looking at everybody in the chat, it's not the black community who let him down. He let him down. So he's just using the black community as a cover because he messed up. You see how that works? That's the real shame and blame and explain. But he's not explaining to himself what he needs to do. He's just telling you what he has. He told you what kind of sacrifices he made. He said he's raised other people's children. He said he's raised his children. He said, yeah, women out there that didn't want guys like him. They want guys that won't give them their last name. But when they do, they hyphenate their last name. So you're not really getting their last name. You're just getting your last name added on to their maiden name. So in the end, you have a segment of the black population who calls themselves Christians, but they're not really Christians. They just hide under the word Christianity because church is a failure. These pastors, they've let everybody down for the simple fact that it's become a money feast. That's what it is. Extortion, legalized extortion. You look at all the cities that are run by black people: Detroit, Chicago, Philadelphia, Washington, Baltimore, Atlanta, Rochester, New York, Boston, Massachusetts, again, New York City, Houston, I believe New Orleans, to name a few. What you see in those cities is poverty, a lot of poor areas. The poor areas are blighted. Now, again, black people have had to go through redlining, which is a horrible thing. But see, the African American people, many of us haven't been taught how to go out and get venture capital. We've been taught to go get a job to work for somebody. This is why education to us, yes, it's good to have it, but we got to go above and beyond with our education. And we have to use our education in the right way, not the education to say we're better than somebody. That's what the ABW does. And also, the problem is, and I don't use the word our women, but a number of ABWs out there, they want to compete instead of compliment. So in the end, you're never going to have structure. Because overall, black people don't believe in structure. Some of them don't even keep their mouth shut. That's why they're getting walloped by the police. Now, there are dirty cops out there too. And I will say something about that. But in the end, you're going to survive in this world. You got to look at what you've done wrong. And on this social media, I've seen too much dysfunction. And with that, we are exposing ourselves and we're looking more and more ignorant. Many of us cannot have discussions. We don't know how to disagree because we take it personally. We're always ready to defend instead of listening. This is why we'll never grow. And I learned that my point is not always going to be right because somebody else is always going to see something that I don't see and vice versa. See, learning is more than just going to college, memorizing what a professor tells you to memorize on a test. Education is constant. But you have to be willing to learn no matter how old you are. Because technology, the world, it's constantly changing. And if you can't keep up with it, you're going to be lost. Look at some of these older people out here. They're still stuck in their ways. These are your old dogs that you can't teach anything. You can't tell them anything. They think they're right. Schizophrenia. You don't interact with people that you're not going to grow with. And if you have trouble with the community that you live in, move out if you have the resources. Don't stay there and try to help others who don't want to be helped, because in the end, you're wasting your time. You only live one time. Make sure you make the best of it, because at the end of the day, we as Black people have to understand the truth. And we have to understand that everything is not going to go our way. Because when it comes to truth, truth hurts. But to tell the truth will help you grow. Why? Because you will learn from it. The truth is the best educator. And when it comes to dealing with people, do not deal with individuals who don't want the truth. Because in the end, when you interact with people who live in deception, in delusion, in denial, they will hold you from seeing the truth. Although the truth hurts, the truth is a powerful tool. And that's my commentary for this edition of the 411 Talk Zone radio show right here on YouTube. If you like what I just presented, please comment, share, and subscribe. Now, I have another channel you can check out as well. If you're looking for some educational material, you check out the QCIS channel. On that channel, I give you a daily dose of science, technology, engineering, and math. Now, if you cannot find the 411 Talk Zone radio show or the QCIS channel on YouTube, you can check both of those channels out on Twitter. Now, when it comes to the QCIS channel, since it's a professional channel and an educational channel, that channel is also going to be posted on my LinkedIn page. But again, I'm going to give you this quote that I made up. Be blessed for what you have. Don't worry about what you don't have. Always know that the sun rises in the east and sets in the west. And another quote I'm going to tell you, if it doesn't apply, let it fly. But if the shoe fits, wear it. If you don't like the shoe, change it. And once again, thank you for listening to this edition of the 411 Talk Zone radio show right here on YouTube. Till next time, my name is Leon Jones. I want you all to have a wonderful and gracious evening. God bless you. I'm out.